Incredible. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. Y'all been enjoying PAX so far? Awesome. This is incredible. Apparently, this is the biggest audience that's been at PAX West so far this year. So give yourself a massive round of applause. Amazing. Thank you so much. There's a lot of people watching on Twitch right now, apparently. I want them to know just how many people are here, so let's do a roll call. How many Witcher 3 fans are in the house? Nice. Okay, now you're going to show your age probably a little bit, so apologies in advance. Witcher 2 fans in the house? That was louder. I think you're not doing this right, but I appreciate it. And then for the golden oldies out there, those who suffered through the bugs to enjoy that rich Slavic lore, Witcher 1 fans. Awesome. Any Gwent fans in the house? Wow. How about Cyberpunk? That'll probably be the last time that word is said on this panel. Let me just get that out of the way already. For those of you who don't know, my name is Danny O'Dwyer. I run a crowd-funded video game documentary channel called NoClip. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We go around the world telling stories about video games, and we recently came back from a week and a half in Warsaw with the folks at CD Projekt, talking about The Witcher 1, 2, and 3, because of course in just a few weeks' time, the first game will be 10 years old. And that's why you're all here today, because that game was lit the fire under a bunch of people, then they were able to make a second, and then they were able to make Witcher 3, which, as we all know, swept a lot of Game of the Year awards and is one of the best fantasy role-playing games of recent memory. So we're here to talk about all three of those games. We have a bunch of people who've come all the way over from Warsaw. They're hard at work, actually, working on their next game, but they've taken the time off to be here. They appreciate you being here, and I'm going to get them out in just a hot second, so the Irish guy will stop rambling. I do want to let you know how the panel's going to work, though. We're going to talk about The Witcher 1, 2, 3 in 20-minute chunks. We've also got video packages of a bunch of ridiculous behind-the-scenes stuff, which apparently they're not really sure if they should show, but they're going to show anyway. And then we're going to open it up to a Q&A. Where we have microphones, but stay seated, enjoy the panel. Gwent and Yen are going to be out picking people for the last 30 minutes, so we'll do a put your hand up thing. So don't worry about lining up, just enjoy the show, and we'll get around to Q&As at the end. All right, let's get this thing started. Before we do, though, I've got a very special person to introduce before I get around to the rest of our murderers row here. You may recognize him from I don't know, a decade of Witcher videos at this stage. He flew in yesterday to be here today, and he's flying out directly after the panel. He's very emotional and happy to be here, I know. He is he's the founder, I should say, and joint CEO of CD Projekt. I'd like to introduce, please, Mr. Marcin Nowinski.
Thank you very much, Jim. Wow. Wow, guys, thank you so much. But I'm just the co-founder and joint CEO. I'm not making these great games, you know, so take it easy, take it easy. Thank you very, very much for coming here. I mean, you really do not imagine what it means for us. We're discussing in the backstage, is there going to be, I don't know, half of the room, you know, maybe 60%, maybe less, and then here we go, it's full. So really appreciate for you taking the time to queue in, to come here. We've prepared, and actually Danny already talked about it a little bit, we prepared a lot of special stuff, behind the scenes stuff which we really should have not been showing, but we'll show it to you, because we go full Monty today, really. It's a very important moment for us, 10th anniversary, time flies, so we might be a little bit emotional. There'll be Q&A at the end, so you might prepare some questions. I'm sure you have a lot of them. But without further ado, there wouldn't be an anniversary without a gift. So especially for this very moment, we've prepared a video for you. Enjoy.
Hey, was just reminiscing and realized, damn, been ages since we last saw each other. You know me, got a hard time staying put. Though, Regis says I'm getting old. Drops in with herbs for trysts sometimes. Strange species I've never seen. They grab Yennefer, lock themselves in her lab, spend all day brewing. Wouldn't dare interrupt them. Not that I'm complaining. Gives me time to help the guys with their contracts. Although, can't shake the feeling they mainly take jobs nearby. Lambert practically lives here. As I said, find it hard to sit still. Except, things are good here, you know? I'm good. We play Gwent, drink wine, swipe grapes from Anarietta's vineyards the odd moonlit night. Vesemir'd enjoy that especially. Been through hell and high water, you and me. Fact is, you know me better than anyone else does. Actually, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Thanks for everything. And know we all miss you, old friend. So, might be my birthday, but I say, here's to you. Now, tell us how you're doing.
That was cool, huh? That was all right. All right, let's get these folks out here. This is my favorite part about interviewing Polish people, is having to pronounce their names. Swear to God, I've probably spent more time practicing the next 30 seconds than the whole rest of the panel. Did Jesse Cox put like a fart thing on my seat? Is that what happened there? I know he's here somewhere. All right, first of all, he was just out here. Let's get another warm round of applause for Mr. Marcin Nowinski. Thanks, Gerald. Next up from the Living World team, Mr. Bartek Ochman.
That was another easy one. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go through the tough ones.
Nice to see you.
Hey everyone.
From the adaptation team, this is the team responsible for taking Sapkowski's book and turning it into the video game lore, Mr. Boris Pugac Miraskevich.
8 out of 10.
Okay. Next up, a gentleman responsible for basically most of the music in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and also a lot of the sound design in The Witcher 2, Mr. Marcin Pisevivovic. Okay? No? Thanks. I don't even need the book for this one. Next up from the Quest team, Paweł Sasko. Geralt's not happy about a quest you put him on. All right, thank you all so much for being here today. Before we get into the weeds on game design and business and all that good stuff, what does it mean to be here?
Who was I'm happy to take that up, actually. 10 years for the franchise, 11 years for me personally. And for me, it's really a blend of Pride, indubitably, tempered, I think, by gratitude.
Right.
Pride. We started out, you know, in some respects, just barely getting that first title out, improving on it a year later, taking a different tack with the second title, moving on to a new platform, arguably with the third title ascending to the top of RPG gaming, staying there for a while, with the expansions as well. We're still in the franchise with Gwent. And to compare us now versus 11 years ago, just in organizational terms, in terms of personal skills, it's just a huge, 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 huge improvement by leaps and bounds.
Boris is saying he learned a lot.
So. And gratitude, because, well, gratitude towards the fans for sticking with us through thick and thin, weathering all the storms, being supportive, providing feedback. Gratitude to all the business partners, all the wonderful performers, the VO directors, the actors in all the languages. Gratitude to all the other business partners, and gratitude, I think, last but not least, to our families, our loved ones, who endured a lot, who were supportive throughout.
For me, the gratitude is also, I think, the strongest thing I feel, actually, because it's 4 years as a fan and 6 years as a developer.
Right.
And when Witcher 1 was being made, I knew about this weird and amazing company actually being based somewhere in Warsaw, and I really wanted to be part of it. And I was rejected actually multiple times. But that didn't stop me. And I joined like 6 years ago during Witcher 2, and that was an amazing ride to build this thing, you know, to be a part of Witcher 2, Witcher 3,
Right.
expansions. It's just a great feeling, guys.
It's a unique thing, I think, to your sort of company story, in that, like, The Witcher, the book series, was already incredibly, had like a loyal and dedicated fan base before the games came out. So in a way, the journey has actually sort of been longer than a decade. It's been part of like much of your lives, right?
Some of us are, first we were fans of the books, then we joined the company. I have my motivation letter that I sent to company. Can I? So.
This is the letter you sent to the company?
Yes, exactly.
On a tiny piece of paper?
No, it's my nose.
You guys must have been struggling.
I kept it for. So, it's hard to describe my admiration for Witcher world created by Master Sapkowski. I read all his Witcher books dozens of times. I know many fragments by heart. Half of my friends I have linked in my mind to characters created by Master Sapkowski. Basically, I've got the Witcher disease.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're all infected here. Should we crack on?
Maybe just a word from me, the veteran, because the company is my first kid, and then I had three more.
Right.
Hello, honey, and kids watching me. So the project was the first story.
Do you see how your dad celebrates the first kid's birthday?
Yeah. Thank you, Danny. That was great. You know what I'll have back home.
Right.
But seriously, so it all started with a dream, because we started as a distribution company. So we were going to all the trade shows and looking at games, and you know, we always wanted to have our own baby, and we're especially fascinated with RPGs. So seeing this today, it's for me unbelievable. You know, making the first game has taken us 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, and we actually started very differently to most of game developers, because we're actually gamers running distribution business, so passion and gaming, but we had no clue whatsoever how to write games and how to develop games. So 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, and there was Witcher 1, and that was incredible, because already we saw that there is a huge following, huge fan base. And actually, the most important part I wanted to say, because Boris went a little bit deeper into the gratitude thing, and this really means a lot to us, and it's not just us talking, because with Witcher 1, especially when we were looking for a partner to help us get the game to stores. And back then there was no digital distribution, so publishers were the gods. They were, you know, the ultimate gatekeepers. And so we were rejected so many times. It was extremely stressful time for me because we were showing, people were coming to our offices, we were presenting, there was due diligence, we were talking about the lore, passionate about books. And then, you know, a month down the line or 2 months down the line, I was getting a call, yeah, wow, great, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, no.
Right.
And then that was it. And then you guys were showing us that we are walking the right path, and you were always there to support us. So thank you very, very much for it.
Awesome. It's for you. Okay, we've got a lot of video games to discuss the design of, so let's get the ball rolling. First of all, we've got a nice little video package for The Witcher 1.
The story begins with The Witcher 1.
Yeah.
So I was reading the books and I'm a huge Sapkowski's fan. But then the game appeared on the market and I was really waiting for it. And I started playing with hope that finally it will be like a really good Polish game.
Right.
And that I will feel the same atmosphere like I had in the books. And it was like that.
Our hero, Geralt of Rivia, known in some parts simply as the White Wolf, or even simpler, the Witcher, is a mercenary monster slayer whose heightened senses, lightning-quick reflexes and superhuman strength are the result of the torturous magical experiments he was subjected to in his youth, and have made him an outcast to some, a necessary tool to others.
Generally the vibe of the place so dreary in some parts, but like the nice kind. I felt very, very authentic, and I don't know, for whatever weird reason, one of the bigger moments that stuck with me, other than of course the story, is that one quest where the woman had the monster in her basement, the old lady, I don't know, and the drunken section with where you try to steal the pickles and and the lard. That was really cool. Yeah.
You're joking.
That mummy must have some lard. Maybe pickles, too.
Shani?
Just don't get caught, Geralt. I'll pay for them tomorrow.
What was it you liked? What was it, the sort of the same rich Slavic lore that was in the books, or was it the questing, or the... Everyone says atmosphere.
Atmosphere, exactly. I don't know how to explain that, because what is atmosphere? Like music, colors of the game, maybe some plot, but to be honest, if you want to point it out, you don't know exactly what is it. Right. But it is. Like The Witcher 1 was in my opinion, the most Sapkowski game like we did in STP.
The game's based on a series of best-selling novels by Polish fantasy writer Andrzej Sapkowski. And unlike any other fantasy setting that you've witnessed so far, there's no good and evil in this one. No fine line, you know? Especially for our main hero, Geralt, who was brought up and trained to be a witcher. A professional monster slayer without any human emotions.
Ready? Come on! Hit me! With pleasure. I'll show you a real man's balls. You talk too much. Scared? That's more like it. Come on. 3, none.
So, I mean, it took 5 years to make the game. Maybe if the 3D artists weren't doing foosball animations, it would have taken a bit less, perhaps. I want to talk about what you were sort of referenced there, Bartek, about atmosphere. When you go back and people talk about the Witcher, the first Witcher game, there was something about it. You know, people refer to, technically, it's quite a world away from what happened with 2 and 3, right? But there was something there, right? It was an incredibly unique game, even in the RPG space, which is, you know, can be quite trite.
I don't know how to point it out. It was something like, I remember a whole chapter of Vizima Outskirts and Temple Quattro. And I was playing it, and I was feeling that this is it. Like, colors, I don't know, guys, maybe you will help me.
Yeah, there's this basically amazing story arc that is built in The Witcher 1, you know. And I remember when I was playing this bit when Shani is checking the guy's head and they find like eggs in his brain or something, and literally I like peed myself, you know, guys. Like there was this dialogue was so incredibly long. I think like Boris is actually the part to blame, you know, here. And but the dialogue was incredibly long, but God damn it, I clicked every single option, and I was like, wow, that's an amazing 30 minutes of dialogue. But the story, it all made sense, right? It was all put together with, such a care and such love that I just understood, like, there's something there, and we can actually make it like this.
But you told about the quest. Okay, it was really sophisticated quest, but also we had quests like kill all dogs in Vizima Outskirts or something like that.
Yeah, the
different level of, but it fits to the story.
Yeah, the dog catcher of Vizima, I don't know if you guys remember it, but Gravedigger was paying you to bring 6 pots of the dog tallow, actually. And I remember the thread on like Steam forums when people were writing that they drank all their dog tallow. I was like, okay, and then I was checking, oh, of course, because it was a good base for elixirs, you know, and for the swords. So, of course, you know, they drank all the dog tallow, so...
It's disgusting. What was that like? I mean, the whole process of adapting a universe that exists over 6 books, it must be very complex.
I was actually going to interject, actually, because these guys are starting to talk about details. But honestly, we've got to go back to the fact that we had a body of work to draw on. And that body of work was, a 5-novel saga, 2 collections of short stories. And it's there that I think you first encountered the atmosphere that you then refound in The Witcher 1. That's sort of the challenge of adaptation. You've got a book that has a fan base, and the Witcher community, online community in general, I think is a lot older than 10 years. It probably started somewhere in the mid-1990s with the publication of the books. The novels had developed, and the world had developed a fan base. And that's a challenge, actually, when you're going to take a book and turn it into, or a series of books, and turn it into a game. You have a fan base that, on the one hand, is really excited to see a product or an IP that it loves in one form arrive in another format, in another medium. On the other hand, they're attached to the lore, they're attached to the characters. They're going to hang you by the balls if you get the lore wrong.
Right.
You know.
If you don't have your favorite character in it, for instance.
But okay, there were early attempts at creating a Witcher game where you could create your own Witcher. You could name him. You could have whatever characteristics you wanted to give him.
That was the first version.
That was the first version, exactly. But it didn't take. It didn't plant roots for the simple reason that fan base out there wanted to play not as a Witcher, but as the Witcher, as Geralt of Rivia. So on the one hand, you've got to serve the fans. On the other hand, you have to make, the IP, the game IP, your own.
Right.
With The Witcher 1, I think we were serving fans. I think we were trying to remain as faithful as we possibly could, taking small liberties here and there. These guys mentioned specific quests. I'll cite characters like Captain Vincent, the town watch, the captain of the town watch in Vizima, a combination of Andy Sipowicz from NYPD Blue and Big B Wolf from the Fables comic books. I'll cite Who's the other? Who are the other big ones? And you know, he was a cop with a Brooklyn accent in the middle of medieval-esque Vizima. You know, and that's you know, and Sapkowski's novels were full of references like that. Not nearly as contemporary, but nevertheless. And I think that's what you're talking about when you say that, you know, you found what you saw in The Witcher 1 was a similar atmosphere.
When I go back and look at it, there's just such a depth to it, where there's things happening and interesting characters that you almost don't have time to sort of even spend too much time enjoying, because you're getting on to the next thing. What I'm also a little bit interested in is that earlier version of The Witcher. What was that? How did it differentiate? Was it just character stuff? Was it gameplay? Very different?
The first one was more of a tech demo. So there were 4 people in Łódź on a local, working on a local tech, and yeah, we had the tech demo. There were like a few locations. I still remember one where there was a tree and there were crows all around it. And although we had the most powerful PC back then, whenever there was a move, the birds started flying around, and then it was slowing down, sort of. Anyway, we went on a tour to meet our hopefully soon-to-be publishing partner in Europe, 2 weeks. And we had the contacts from the distribution, so we're meeting actually the right people. It wasn't like, you know, like random meetings, but with all the key publishers back then. And after these 2 weeks, we were super proud. We had a huge, beautiful design doc. We still have 1 copy. And we got 2 emails back. Saying, 2, yeah, like 10 or 12 meetings, 2 emails from the best friends. They were kind enough to respond in a very polite business way that we should still work a little bit more on it. Pretty much, it sucked, like I was saying. So after that, we relocated 3 out of 4 people. Actually, we couldn't find an agreement with the gentleman owning the technology, and relocated them from the city of Łódź to Warsaw. We put more people on it. There was only one problem: we didn't have the tech. So as we were distributing Interplay, and one of the biggest games for us back then was Baldur's Gate, which we fully localized to Polish. And also, like, in all honesty, when we were going to all these trade shows, we were envious. Like, we really wanted to have our own game. We were dealing with other people's games, and we were looking at these Baldur's games, like, yeah, it would be great to have something like that.
You've been distributing games for like a decade at this stage, right?
Yeah. And we, being at E3, I mean, we checked all the engines around. There was nothing for RPG. There was Unreal. There was something else. We looked at a couple. And
The Witcher would have been very different in Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I mean, I think even I mean, first of all, it would look very different. But we really wanted to remove as many obstacles to making the game as possible. So the first one, we had the books, we had the lore. We didn't want to build the lore because it's really hard, and it adds a lot of risk. And anyway, for us it was like working on Tolkien's works, yes, for Polish people. So that's why we are all so passionate about The Witcher. So we were super lucky. And then we wanted really to use an external tech to limit the risk. And we knew BioWare, so really honestly, like, we were at E3, went to the West Hall, went to their booth and said, hey guys, what do you think about licensing your tech? And Ray and Greg, like, scratched their heads, yeah, we're thinking about that. Let's do this. And after probably 2 or 3 months, we were already working on Aurora.
So you walked up to the doctors and basically just...
Yeah, the doctors. Yeah.
Right.
The doctors help us a lot. And then, so within 9 months from then, we had a prototype. And that was super, super fast. That was still the more generic Witcher, that wasn't Geralt. And so, doctors, again, helped us out a lot, and I'm really grateful to Ray and Greg until this very day.
They gave you your first E3 space, right?
Actually, yeah, they gave us a call. We were totally shocked, yeah. Come on. No. You're laughing. That's not fair. That's a very prominent space.
It's a very nice chair.
Yeah. No, what is important about this one here is that we were a distributor of games in Poland. So, like, a pedigree in the games development world, minus 25 or minus 100, like 0, non-existent. Who are these guys? And suddenly BioWare, the gods of RPGs, showcases at their booth, okay, in a corner, but they had all the big press, all the IGNs, all the GameSpots of this world coming to their booth to see Jade Empire at that time on Xbox. And then also like, hey, by the way, here in the corner we have a really cool game from Poland called The Witcher, and we were covered everywhere. So it was an amazing thing for us.
So at that stage, like for you guys being in Poland, did you know about this game beforehand, or was it when it started getting pulled into like bigger games media that then you started to really like see it for the first time?
Yeah, that was one of the things that really inspired me to actually, join CD Projekt and really like start in a gaming industry, because I heard about that. And as Bartek, I actually loved the books before. So for me, as a Polish person, I was like, wow, I just really want to make this thing. I want to see it done well, And if I can, maybe I can be a part of it, like be a cleaning person or like, deliver coffee in the office.
Just keep on applying, and.
Exactly, and I was at the time, like that was a long time ago, but I was born in like Polish village and like at the south of Poland, like close to Ukraine, and I was taking cows to the fields, for posturing, and I had in my bag actually books from Sapkowski, that I was reading. Actually, I knew them very well, and that was the thing, when I saw this thing being made, I felt, wow, I really want to be part of it. I knew I have zero chance, but I mean that.
Did you put this particular experience in your CV?
I omitted that part, but maybe that would help me to get in earlier. Yeah.
That's important. It's an important
I didn't think about it. Yeah.
I actually had very similar experience. I still remember, like it was yesterday, seeing the Polish national news, evening news, right? And there was like the second report on the blog, so it was still quite important that basically Polish market emerges and we're gonna have our first own full-blown video game.
Right.
And it's called Wiedźmin, The Witcher. And it already rang a bell because I've read Witcher books from like, elementary school. And I still remember seeing snippets of the cinematic Platyzimich did. And my jaw just like dropped, a few stories below. I was 20 or something at that point. I was studying at musical academy, so I was tackling over with music anyways, but I still didn't have any idea what I should do when I grow up, graduate, and how the hell I'm gonna earn money, right, and build my career. And after seeing that podcast, I knew, okay, this is the place I wanna be, this is the shit I wanna do.
Yeah.
And from that time, it took me like 4 or 5 years to actually break into CD Projekt. So I was sending you my CVs for like 4 years straight.
My goodness.
Thank you. Thank you for being persistent.
I think it wasn't until I don't think the West or people outside Poland realized how much it meant to Poland until, like, I remember reading news articles about the fact that, like, Barack Obama was getting a copy of it was the second game, I think, was it?
Yeah, that was the second game.
It's amazing how much, like, and now that we go to Warsaw now and there's, like, so many games development studios, and there's also, like, a lot of crossover. I know people have worked at Techland who work at CD Projekt and vice versa as well. There's actually a pretty good, like, video game
it's the
infrastructure.
The environment is very strong, but back in the day, like Witcher 1 and probably the early beginnings of Witcher 2, gaming industry in Poland was a funny thing, like a nerdy funny thing. Still remember when with Michał, the co-founder, it was before Witcher 1. We had a very healthy business, distribution business, profitable, nice revenues, and we went to a bank, and we filed the application for our first credit. So we prepared all the papers. We're not very good with finances, so I was preparing them. It's taking me a lot of time and energy, and I was super stressed. And then at the end, the lady asked, like, computer games? Yeah. Oh, okay. So what your parents own? Like flats, cars? We really need some serious collateral. We're like, okay, thank you. No, that was the concept about computer games, like a funny, strange business for nerds. And then actually the Barack Obama thing, which really sort of happened. We were asked many times how it happened and how we arranged it. We did not. So actually before Barack Obama's visit, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was calling us, but nobody was really picking up at our reception. Yeah. So this story could have just ended right there, but they called another company in Poland and they reached out to us saying, hey, like Ministry of Foreign Affairs wants to get in touch with you. So they reached out and said like, hey, we want to win a gift and we'd like a collector's edition. And we're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So we're signing it at the studio. I'm going around. It's like, hey, it will be a gift for Barack Obama. Yeah, blah, 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 joking as usual, fun, you know. Like, guys, watch the news. And in the evening, the news, and, you know, Prime Minister handing it over. And it was a huge thing. It was sort of a signal that this is serious stuff. Because I always remember when I was traveling around and people were asking me, so what is Polish economy like? What is it based on? And honestly, there were two things coming to my mind immediately. Sausage and vodka. I was like...
It's pretty good. Shout out for sausage and vodka.
Yeah, but like, you know...
Sausage, vodka, and The Witcher is like a pretty solid Saturday night.
Yeah, and right now it's The Witcher, sausage, and vodka. So yeah, that's a big change. It's good.
Yeah. A lot can happen in 10 years.
From sausage to Witcher.
Yeah. Well, sausage is always going to be up.
10th year anniversary.
That was the original title for this, but yeah, made us change it. Before we move on to the second game, we talked a little bit about specifics at the start. I want to throw it out there again. Favorite quests. What are some of your favorite quests that pop into your mind when you think about that first game?
I don't have one. I could say whole chapter in Tempo Quattro was the best from the game. Like one quest by another was perfect. So I cannot pick one. Boris?
It's very difficult to cite a specific quest. I'm really attached to characters and characterizations. I cited Captain Vincent of the Vizima Town Watch, Raymond Marlowe, the detective, a pretty good impression of Humphrey Bogart in the world of The Witcher. That's where my affinities lie. You know?
Awesome. Marcin, and yourself?
I don't think that's the best moment to come out of the closet, but, well, here I am. Actually, I haven't played Witcher 1 at all.
Oh
never.
my God.
Oh my God. We're leaving, sorry.
Fucking leaving.
Shame on you. Shame.
All right, moving along.
I was going to.
You should have told me before it came out.
I was going to, but at that time my machine wasn't that strong enough. And then it's kind of, I don't know. And then Witcher 2 happened, so no. I got an excuse, right? But I watched part of it on YouTube at least, so.
That'll do. Papa.
I mean, I personally love all those ridiculous ideas in the quest design, and we did lots of this in Witcher 3, but we'll maybe get to this later. But you know, the the quests about gathering the dog tallow, or like the one when you're supposed to get the leash for the cat, or rather the bells for the cat, so that the Greeks could ride on it. Like those were. I think that shows actually like the level at that point of like understanding the lore and
right.
maybe building it all together where we were actually at that point, you know. So.
Awesome. All right, we got a bunch more games to talk about, so let's keep on moving. Let's check out a video for The Witcher 2.
The first Witcher was powered by Aurora Engine, and it was really cool that BioWare helped us with the first game, but we modified the Aurora Engine significantly. Sometimes we say that 80% of the code was completely rewritten. Eventually, we decided to develop our own engine with a clear goal that after the release of the PC version, we're going to have a console game. And it was because of the rise of the White Wolf. We failed with the Rise of the White Wolf, but we won with The Witcher 2.
Talu scenę, żeby jak będzie bliski kadr, żeby on nie ruszał się bardzo, więc nagramy samo zerwanie miecza, a później samo złamanie ręki. Tak.
You've broken my arm!
A lot of memories there. Hits you right in the feels. We've a lot to talk about in terms of this, but first of all, I feel when as gamers, when we think about these games, we think about the end experience, we think about how different it compares to our expectations or the games previously, and there's a lot to unpack with The Witcher 2. But with this one, there's a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes, I feel like, that got you to The Witcher 2. Business stuff that sort of set you up to be able to make the games that you wanted to make, and ultimately make The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt as well. Marcin, could you tell us a little bit about sort of what it was like doing your own engine, having your own control over your IP, and how much that factored into making the second game?
I think that was super important for us from the very beginning, and we're lucky enough that we're self-funded, so all the proceeds from our distribution business were invested directly into Witcher 1. However, around like after 3 years of development, we had already 50 or 60 people on board, and it was really too heavy to carry. So we needed to find someone who would help us financially, like at least co-fund the last year. Plus, what was even more important, we could probably even arrange the funds, but getting the game to the market, so going through a gatekeeper. As I mentioned at the very beginning, it was really tough because we were being rejected. And I still remember these publishers, quite a lot of them, it's still out there, so we're talking to all the big guys. And they were coming to our studios, and even without any contractual discussions, we were pitching them with, telling them about the lore, saying that, describing it, why this is a pretty fine hero, why it's driving the story. We had the stories, some of the stories translated for them to read. We're sending them presentations, and then we had a question like, so why there is no multiplayer? And we're like, what? Our focus tests are showing that there should be a multi-class. Can the main hero be elven female? And we said, yeah, of course, guys. We'd love to do it, but sorry, no. So we were rejected on these grounds. Finally, we found a partner willing to go ahead with the project. So really nobody, honestly speaking, nobody believed we'll deliver the game, that we'll make it happen, no experience, unknown guys from Poland, and they're telling that they'll make like, I don't know, 100 hours RPG. That's a no-go. It's impossible.
Were you pitching this also as a console game? Because obviously,
no. We're pitching it solely as a PC game. We knew like that we cannot do any other platforms, and then Aurora was not suitable for it. Hence the change to the next engine. But what is important was we already were quite experienced in business, and we had very key assumptions. We wanted to remain on the full control of the intellectual property, so own everything related to The Witcher, and we wanted to have creative control. We knew we'll have to give away big parts of the proceeds to the publishers, so the usual, I don't know, 70%, 30% royalty for us, but we didn't want to get rid of the control. We agreed this with Atari. We signed after probably a month of discussion, heads of agreements, so like a 4-pager, took us a month. And then we said, okay, right now we'll get the agreement, it will be peachy, rosy, and we'll live happily ever after, and then we get an agreement, and the agreement pretty much says that we don't own anything, they own everything.
Wow.
It took me, and we're really tight on cash, it took me 6 months, like 2-3 calls a week with our lawyers to make this agreement happen.
Right.
But that was the foundation which then allowed us to do co-publishing on Witcher 2 and pretty much self-publishing on Witcher 3. What it means for you guys, it means that we can deliver exactly what we want to deliver and nobody's telling us what should we do and what shouldn't we do, what should be in the packaging or why they don't like what we're proposing. If we want to do free DLC, we do the free DLC. If we want to do huge expansions, we do huge expansions. So that's pretty much the foundation to our freedom and to our values, and that's super important for us.
Right. So you went through all that work to give yourself that breathing space to be able to create the game you wanted to make. And then you made a game that is quite different to the first game in terms of it's almost like the first game is sort of based more on the short stories, and then Witcher 2 is sort of on the saga aspect. Is that fair to say, Bart?
Yes, the second installment was slightly different because touched different main topics. So Geralt is get stuck in some political intrigues or something like that. So it's much more about huge subjects than more intimate and small histories about Geralt, the Witcher. But what I can say more about it, guys?
I mean, Witcher 2 had an amazing focus on cinematics, right? And we wanted to tell the story and more show the characters. Like a lot of screenwriters will tell you that the good stories are told to the good characters, and you can even have a shit story. If you have a good characters and you show them well and you give them space, they will actually carry your story. And you can see it right now, in a lot of series, in the Netflix series, that it's actually happening. So what happened in The Witcher 2 was that a lot of dialogues were just pulled off in a way more cinematic way than in The Witcher 1. You could see the full characters. They had pretty decent facial experience. The voiceover was better. Actually, Boris put way more work into the accents, which maybe he will like to share some information about.
Okay, for me, The Witcher 1, we started in Kaer Morhen, we wound up in Vizima, at first its outskirts, then in the various quarters across the lake, but we were going around in circles. With The Witcher 2, new tech, a new focus on cinematics, we went on an adventure, I think. We got Geralt embroiled, as Pavo said, in a serious sort of political plot, and we set out into the world. And in terms of what that entailed for me was actually designing the world, a world where you do have different dialects, and you do have different nations, and you do have different small populaces. So the Aedirnians, we inherited sort of the haughty, RP elves, the Queen's English elves, and the Scottish dwarves. Just standard, I think, fantasy tropes from The Witcher 1, but to that, we added Aedirnians who were Welsh, Temerians who we defined as roughly the Midlands, Kedwenis who were Irishmen. And I mean, we had our concerns, because the only thing that I sort of associated with an Irish accent was leprechauns and very, very sort of cheery people. And,
Geralt hunts for Lucky Charms.
The mascot, yes, exactly. The mascot, exactly. the mascot for breakfast cereal. But I think we succeeded in making Henselt, you know, just a ruddy, brash, you know, full-blooded Irishman, so to speak, and all his army similarly, and that's something that that sort of design is something
I
we
think
carried over into The Witcher 2.
But Witcher 2 is sort of building on our experience and our strengths from The Witcher 1. So Witcher 1, if you put it into perspective, we spend a lot of time just fighting with the reality, making it work, getting a build done, cooking a build that was crashing. You know, we wrote. I mean, we pretty much we've written 80% of the code. So the environment which we were working in wasn't very stable, and we learned on that. And already Witcher 2 was our own technology, so we're way more in control. And then, of course, you know, with the development of the hardware, we were able to get the bar up and use better means, more cinematic means to tell the stories. Yes, it wouldn't be possible without Witcher 1. It's looking beautiful. That's why you had to go and buy a new PC. But that's, you know, that's guaranteed when there is a new game from us. So.
Also, because of the new tech, we were able to introduce some open world elements, because the first installment, Witcher 1, was quite simple, like the space was limited. And in the Witcher 2, we had a bigger locations, and it allows us to have some experiments before the Witcher 3.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to mention one thing regarding Witcher 2. So the one thing we did, which was amazing, was building our own technology. And there was a lot of new things, like our quest editor and our scene editor, that were like something remarkable, really. But then we really didn't know where we are going, right, when it was being built. So then, when the Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition was on the horizon, we wanted to, you know, release the Red Kit along with it and so on. And then it turned out that actually there's just shit ton of stuff that we need to rewrite to just make sure that the mortal person is able to operate it.
Right.
Because it was just so complex and just illogical, basically, the way it was built in, that it just took us a year to just make it nicer and better. But then, you know, we carried over this whole experience to Witcher 3 because we basically knew, okay, what we can't really do, right?
I've heard as well, we talked previously about how you put that out, obviously, for the sort of modding community, right? For people to play with the game and make their own mods. But it's bizarrely become this sort of de facto recruitment tool.
Yeah. So that's an interesting story, because for the quest team, basically, when we recruit people to the team, we just ask them to prepare a quest, basically.
Right.
And, well, we ask them to prepare the quest in the Red Kit. So, you know, we basically can see their skills, like, right away. So they use this Red Kit that we released to show what they can do. So that became a recruitment tool for us.
There was one person who I met when I was over in Warsaw who made like an entire quest. Like, you asked them to make like a quest, and then they ended up doing like everything but the voiceover, essentially, in Red Kit.
Yeah, that one is Philip. I mean, he's still part of our team, and actually we have few quest designers who were modders before, and they were doing amazing. So,
all right,
they had good school.
You want to work in Poland? Start modding The Witcher 3 right now.
what he didn't say is that the quest was 6 hours long. So
oh my God!
Anything under 6, just don't send it.
No, the mod.
6 plus.
Was Blood and Wine just somebody's CV they put in, a resume? Actually, let's talk about scale, because that's where the scale issue seems to come in, right? And we'll get into the weeds of it in The Witcher 3, I'm sure. But The Witcher 1 was a game that, you know, you tried to make this game, pare it down a little bit maybe. The Witcher 2...
Well, the other thing with The Witcher 1 is actually we had externally imposed word count limits from the publisher.
Oh, really?
That we could not exceed.
Like global word count?
Global word count could not exceed XYZ because the localization and VO recording costs would be through the roof. It wasn't in the budget.
Right.
With The Witcher 2, we no longer had those. And
so then you said,
well, we had self-imposed limits.
Right.
How those worked out, well,
very well.
It's essentially a game that sort of like splits into two different games at a certain point. Like.
Yeah, but even like if you look at Witcher 1, because what Boris didn't mention, we got the publishing partner on board very late. So already by that time, we've got the game 2 or 3 times. And every single time, I still remember because the development team initially was sitting in our warehouse, and then like next to the window was were like folders with locations, and were like a whole line of folders, and then cutting the scope was like removing part of these folders and putting them away, and then like less and less folders, and people started getting very nervous, like this game will be so small, oh my god, you know, like wow, why? So we probably removed, I don't know, 50% of the content, like scale-wise.
For one or two?
For one, for the first one.
What about two then?
But the thing is that when we started, we had no clue whatsoever what it will mean, how it will translate to the actual gameplay. And when we put the locations, we populated, and we said like, wow, it's huge. Yeah, it's a gigantic thing, and making the first game, we just, I think if we wouldn't have cut it, we wouldn't be able to ship it, because we wouldn't be able to test it, we wouldn't be able to afford all that. So yeah, I think it's good, but we're never really good in managing scope. What I think, guys, you guys are quite happy with, I hope. And then on Witcher 2, we did this 2 chapters.
Well, yeah, but completely justified, I think, because Vernon Roach and Yorveth are NPCs that deserve, you know, separate and distinct paths like no other NPCs I know.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the specifics then. I mean, I asked for favorite quests because some of you weren't working on the team yet. Basically, everyone sitting down here worked on some aspect of The Witcher 2, right? So can you give us a little bit of insight into how quests are made? Like how ideas came about, stuff that was cut, stuff that made it in that you didn't think was going to make it in, that type of thing. What are your favorite ones?
I mean, there's lots of stuff that I really liked in The Witcher 2, but there's one story I wanted to tell you guys. So for a good 6 weeks, we had a crash, 100% crash in the game happening if you decided to pick an option with Triss in the dialogue not to have sex with her.
Wait, 6 weeks?
Yeah, so basically we started doing regression tests, and we figured out that the bug was introduced like 6 weeks back, and pretty much nobody really caught it.
Aren't there people on the team whose specific job it is to choose every possible option?
And there is.
There are.
I mean, our QA is extremely dedicated, and you know.
Now we have, right? Now we have.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, currently it works like that we have this roadmap that shows you all the possible choices, and basically person is picking the exact things, you know. And of course there are other testers who just they do whatever they want, because they also uncover issues playing like this. So yeah, that is covered. But you know, during that time, and you know, that was a lot of work, and it just somehow, you know, everybody was just, you know.
It was really well animated, I'm sure. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, this cutscene was a lot of work, you know, like a lot of FXs and so on. So I'm pretty sure they wanted to test out if the shaders are
If it plays out well, yeah.
Jesus. Any other stuff that comes into mind? Interesting quest, because you were.
Yeah, I mean, there was. So there's this moment when Geralt takes the illusionary potion, right? And he starts seeing things during Witcher 2. And I remember there was like this moment when it was late at night. We were sitting in the office like finishing stuff, and one of the designers was like, he was a bit tired, and he thought, okay, he picked like a really big chicken and put it into the forest and like scaled it up. And then there were these like wooden dildos. The wooden dildos, they were like lying around the brothel in the tent, and he just picked them up, and he was like, I'll just scale them around, right? So he scaled those dildos around the chicken, and he started the game, and he approached with Geralt. He approached this chicken, looked up, and in the shot he had this chicken with the dildos around. And then our director walked in, and he looked at it and said, "That's fucking amazing!" Like we.
Not well. Yes.
So I'm guessing if Atari was publishing the game, this probably wouldn't have been cool.
We'll never know.
Maybe more. Maybe they had metrics saying that dildos in games were actually really hot right now. Scale that up. For the rest of you folks playing the game, working on the game, any other quests that sort of come out to you? Bartek, what about
I
you?
remember one. It was named In the Close of Madness. It was about some burned hospital in the middle of the forest. And it was really nice, really spooky. And the whole Witcher 2 touches different mood or different atmosphere. And that one was straight from The Witcher 1.
Right.
Like copy and paste from the first installment, and it was really great because it was in a different mood. You had some plot about treason and about ghosts, and it was really nice.
You have an affinity, it seems, for that style of Sapkowski, right? Like the Witcher 1 sort of stuff.
Exactly.
I think we all do, but I mean, I totally bought into the political intrigue of The Witcher 2. I was with it, and to me, the prologue quest, where you're interrogated by Vernon Roach, and you look back at what you did in a series of nonlinear flashbacks, where you make nonlinear choices that play out later in the game. Yeah, that was something new and something really meaty.
And I guess you kind of had your cake and ate it then with The Witcher 3, where you basically had a game that had both of them in it. We have a lot of stuff to talk about in relation to The Witcher 3, so we're going to show a video just in a second, but before we do, this is a pretty good video, Martin.
Yeah, it's a pretty good video, and actually we had some resistance internally to show it, so it's a message for the head of the studio, Adam Badowski. Adam, we have so many fans here, we just couldn't not have shown it, so I'm really sorry for that. That's a real behind-the-scenes exclusive. There's a lot of reveals out there of how things happen before they're ready, so be ready for something very special.
All right, everyone, enjoy.